I'm sorry. Uh, BRB, ASAP, LOL, and ROFL. In case you are wondering what these words mean, we have to discuss Marshall McLuhan in order to understand what these things mean and why I was stuck to my mobile phone. Welcome to a discussion session on Marshall McLuhan. I'm Shomo Shubhrodash, and with me we have two students, Onushua and Ritik.
Hello, sir.
Okay, so I was doing a kind of a strange thing when the camera was on, because for me, more than talking to the camera, playing with my mobile phone or communicating through my mobile phone was more important. I was using some weird and very abbreviated language, LOL, ROFL, ASAP, BRB, and what I wanted to mean was, without the mobile phone or the new media, or without a kind of a technology, this kind of linguistic structure which I was using wouldn't have evolved. So that's why we are discussing Marshall McLuhan, and in order to understand this phenomena, the relationship between human behavior, human civilization, the way we think, the way we have changed ourselves is directly dependent on the evolution of media. That's what Marshall McLuhan thinks. Let's get into the discussion of Marshall McLuhan. Do you have any idea who is this person?
He was a theorist who didn't exactly want to be called a theorist, and came up with a lot of crazy stuff about the way people communicate in different
Okay.
times of human evolution.
Okay.
People say that, you can, some people agree with him, some people disagree with him.
He
but-
polarizes his critics.
Yeah, but you can't avoid him.
Okay, yes, you are exactly right. And he has been, for all these reasons, he has been known as the Oracle of Information Age. And since we are living in 2015 and we have so much of information, we are in information highway, and we have so much of modes of communication. We have cell phones, we have computer, internet, Skype, everything. We are in the middle of a plethora of communication technologies, and that's why Marshall McLuhan is so important today, because he predicted this somehow. He predicted this in 1960s, and in this way, he might be, one might relate to him, or one might compare him with the likes of Marx, Freud, Einstein, or even Nostradamus. He predicted. He had foreseen the future, and he predicted this was going to come. Now he has a very, that's what you said. He's a little, crazy kind of a person, but his influence to our consciousness about media and communication and our own selves, it cannot be denied. And I'm just quoting him. He said that I don't have a theory of communication. All the intellectuals have this kind of luxurious statements. He says that he doesn't have a theory of communication, but we know that it's not true. Okay, his theory is very different. His approach is very different. Probably that's why he has said so. But one thing is there: McLuhan was a kind of a theoretician who believed in entertainment.
Okay.
If we go through his books, we will understand that. Okay, because he was very, very influential. He was the superstar theoretician in United States. He's from Canada, and he was influenced by a lot of artists of 1960s and 70s. It was a very turbulent decade, and revolution was in the air, and a kind of a avant-gardism was everywhere. Now, in India we had Satyajit Ray and Ritik Ghatak. Okay, they were at the peak of their career and they were experimenting with cinema. So experimentation was all around. There was student movement, there was Naxalite movement, everything. The world was almost shaking. And that point of time, McLuhan comes in the comes in the scene, and he predicts some kind of a future. Okay. His way of work, he says that he likes to probe into things rather than using already the observations which have been done by the former theoreticians. There are a lot of approaches while you make your own theory or create your own theory. You can relate to the previous ancestors, or you can the previous generation theoreticians who have their theories, and you extend it or you contradict them. What he does, he doesn't do that. What he does is he picks up the contemporary examples like media and communication, telephone, pop culture, all these things, and he probes into it. That's why his work is partly theoretical and partly entertaining also. Probing in the sense, what we have in our notion is that a theory is a very a very academic an academic work,
Yeah.
which has a lot of references from the past theoreticians.
Yeah. You
Now,
use
what
other
he-
people to argue
Exactly.
with your...
Yes.
Okay.
He doesn't do that. That's why he says that I don't have a theory of communication. What he does is that he observes certain phenomena. Let's say he relates to television,
Okay.
and he looks at the effect that the television has. In fact, in the beginning of the show, I was immersed, I was deep into my cell phone, and I couldn't deny that. And it has a certain effect on my behavior, because cell phone, that mode of communication is so important to me. Okay, I couldn't deny that communication. This is the kind of an observation that he makes, and then he gives his thoughts on that. This is the kind of probing attitude that he had. It's a kind of methodology that he adopted. Okay. Very interestingly, he said, human communication are actually an extension of the human faculty. Do you believe this?
Sir, it makes sense if you think about what you are doing. So... for
Okay,
you-
yes, yes,
It was like the cell phone was part of your arm at that point of time.
yes. Not only a part of my arm, but an extension of my ears, extension of my mouth, and extension of my
Thought
mind,
process, yeah.
thought process. Okay, I would rather extend this sentence and this thought, and I would rather say that human communication has become now the extension of our own selves. Not only the human faculty, not only the human organs or sensibilities. It is an extension of our personality almost. It's quite evident from the status updates and the photo posts that we have in social media. Okay. Now, he has often been related to this term called technological determinism. What is technological determinism? It means the inventions in technology invariably cause cultural change. Technology determines how our culture is.
The Renaissance is also something
Yes,
that...
It was
sort of-
spurred by the printing press.
Yeah,
The invention of the printing
press
Yes.
is said to be one of the greatest.
exactly so. And to be precise, Marshall McLuhan will start discussing this thing. Okay. McLuhan believes that technology is the key governing force in the society, which through the history of time has changed the society as it has progressed. Exactly what you were saying, the printing technology. And what after that?
The steam engine.
The steam engine, right? And can you say that steam engine is related to communication?
Yes, because it made traveling from one place to another so easy that the world became a smaller
precisely
place.
so. Precisely so. And you will find as days are going by, we are obsessed with this idea of communication. We are shrinking the world like anything. Okay, there was a one point of time when you needed at least 30 days or at least 5 days to communicate someone sitting in United States. Now I have Skype. Okay, it will not even take 5 seconds. One of his first phenomenal works was found in Gutenberg Galaxy, The Making of Typographic Man. It was published in 1962. And the most important aspect of this book is he divided our human culture, the human history, into 4 epochs based on the influence exerted by the media or medium of communication. The 4 epochs that it describes, they are tribal age or the oral tribe culture, the age of oral culture. Second, the literal age or the manuscript age. Third is the print age or the Gutenberg era. And then this present era, electronic age. Now we will discuss these 4 epochs and we will try to understand what McLuhan points out. Tribal age or oral culture. It seems that if you go through his work, it will seem that McLuhan is quite obsessed with this age. Let's say early unlettered age was that of the tribal era. Let's find out what do you mean by unlettered society.
This was a time previous to which man could read or write, before
Yes.
the advent of written language.
Yes. Now what do you think? Unlettered society is necessarily uneducated society?
Not
What do you
necessarily.
think?
No, not
Not
really.
necessarily.
Precisely so. Unlettered society is not, we often, confuse it these terms. Unlettered society is a kind of a society whose culture is not written in letters or alphabets. Okay. Now, where space was perceived through auditory perceptions, this is a very important thing. In tribal era, space, the place and the visual scope around you was perceived through auditory perceptions. The concept of space, now it's very difficult for us to grab because, when we talk about space, of course, you see space.
Yeah.
If I tell you that you hear space, do you hear space?
If you're talking about an echo, I think, but that's very literal.
Are we talking about something related to mapping? Because now we can map.
You're getting into the technology.
Okay.
Maybe. Yes, please continue.
In today's time, no matter how large a space is, no matter how far it goes beyond our scope of vision, we know what lies beyond what, because everything can be mapped. So,
Yes, but what you're saying is that it's a kind of a technological probe. It's an investigation.
okay.
But how do you see? If I tell you that, look at the sea, how vast it is. Can I tell you, hear the sea, how vast it is? It's very difficult for us
Exactly.
That's
to
what they
think
do.
in that way because we are obsessed with the process of image, with the
Calculating.
process of seeing.
Seeing and deciphering.
Exactly. And that's what McLuhan will criticize. Okay. So the space was auditory. Space was perceived through sound. I'll give you a little example and you will be agreeing with me. Think about the oral epics. Think about Ramayana. Think about Iliad and Odyssey. Think about Homer. Homer never wrote anything.
He was probably blind.
He was blind and he would stand in the middle of the marketplace and he would orate. And generations, his followers would, listen to it every day and they'll
Memorize it.
memorize it.
and pass it from one.
Yes, from one generation to the other. So you will find that in India or Asian culture, more than visuals, it's a song, the sound, okay, the oration, the stories. So this was the main characteristic of tribal age. And what McLuhan says is that there's a kind of a disturbance which compels one age to move to the other through an influence of a medium. With the evolution of alphabets, okay, with letters, we were obsessed with manuscripts. Human civilization needed to record events, needed to, write down things and record the functions of society. Okay, you will find that great kings have their manuscripts and seals, Okay, and carvings on the wall. So all these things evolved with the literate age and the invention of the letters. What it does is very interesting. It is the aspect of the art of memory and recording. Previously, we used to memorize, let's say, the epics. We used to memorize them, without writing. Think about the children. Do you teach a child everything in a written form? No. We even teach a child the alphabets ABCD through rhymes, right?
And
There's a
songs.
song.
Yeah. Even
So-
before they can read, they learn poems
Exactly.
orally. So
Right. So that is later on you will find that how tribal age or oral culture is one of the aspects of human when they start their life. The aspect of the child. Okay. Now, with the discovery or with the invention of letters, you have the literate age or the manuscript culture. Now again, this manuscript or literate age will change with
further medium
Yes,
changes it.
with the influence of further medium, which is print. Gutenberg press, it is often thought that, it is a kind of a revolution in Europe. Changed the European society. Now, how do we, decipher the fact that Gutenberg press or the printing press changed Europe?
What I remember is the first thing that they started printing and publishing was the Bible. So before that,
Yes.
the world was theocentric, and you would believe what the ones who could read Latin
What the
would
clergy
say. So
would
the
say to
clergy
you.
would
Right, right.
dictate terms. But once people read the Bible themselves and they realized that the clergy isn't always right, and maybe this means something else to me, so it automatically changed their way of thinking, and that's where the Renaissance why came in. Why people started questioning.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it was almost a kind of a theocentric world, and the printing press converted it into anthropocentric. God is no more in the middle of our lives. It's a man who is in the middle of our life because we can read. Okay. Now, it is said that printing age, with the advent of print, industrial revolution was on the cards. How?
Because with the
What do you
advent
think?
of the printing press, information was no longer
Restricted.
monopolistic. It became democratic, and information could be distributed and imparted on a much larger basis, which invited, what should I say? It invited growth of knowledge, which led to technology progressing much faster, which
Yes. Again, you are right. Okay, again, you are right. Of course, you know your stuff. Good. So, industrial revolution, Renaissance is asking people to think in a different way, and the whole Europe is evolving in a very different way. It's coming out of the traps of religion and becoming very practical. Okay? And this formal causality, both in our inner and external lives, is a very important thought that with printage comes recording, with printage comes capitalism. That's why industrial revolution was on the cards. Okay, you could record, you could get out of the theocentric ideas, and man was started to become modern. After that, the electronic age. All the previous epochs diffused into the grand electronic culture. It is called electronic interdependence. Do you agree?
Here, interdependence would mean the interdependence on each other as well as on electricity. I mean, on the electronic.
man and man as well as man and machine.
Yes.
Because see, my Facebook account is incomplete without everyone else's Facebook account.
Yes.
It's also incomplete without the computer network. So
And another thing is there, I can, with this aid of electronic facilities in this electronic age, I have an oral epic downloaded in my computer. I have the Gutenberg first printing, the image of the first printed Bible, and I also have films and whatever, the cave paintings. So that's why it is called the interdependence. Our electronic age diffuses all the previous cultures. With the electronic age, I have all the representations of the previous epochs, democratizing everything. The reach, people can reach it in a fast way and in the most,
Easy way.
Individualism and fragmentation. McLuhan made a point that printing age individualized and fragmented human beings. This is a very important. I already told you that McLuhan doesn't like printing age.
He doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it.
No.
From a very different angle. Okay, what he says is that a book
You have to read it.
fragments a person.
Yeah.
Let's say there's a book and you can, go into your room and
Read it
just,
alone.
Yes, read it alone. You think, and even he goes on to say that he conspires and you get inspired and then conspire. Okay, but what electronic age does is that it again reunites us. Electronic age, I'm watching a television, I'm speaking over the phone, and I'm in a social media. Remember, the Arab Spring started with a single post over a social media. People are on the streets nowadays by a single post, or they gather themselves through electronic media and social media. So in a way, remember, McLuhan never had these kinds of examples.
No. It's
Facebook and
almost like he
internet
had
was not there.
It's almost like he had a TARDIS and traveled in time and
Yes,
figured
almost.
everything.
That's why we are sitting here and discussing Marshall McLuhan. We cannot deny him. Okay, and he predicted this. This action, this community action, reminds us of the tribal age. So there's a reversal.
Absolutely.
Okay. New social organization will be known as global village. Why it's global and why it's village?
Global because it encompasses the globe,
Yes.
Everyone.
and
here.
village because people are united again, where everyone knows each other.
I know you interact with me. I know how you think. What are your needs? You know exactly the same
Absolutely.
about me.
And maybe even if we don't know everyone, at least the internet gives us the possibility of knowing everyone.
Yes. Don't you think that it's very weird that Marshall McLuhan in 1962 and 1965, 1967, he's predicting all these.
He was a prophet.
Or
yes,
he was a
almost.
time
That's
traveler.
why he
I'm
has been
going to
known as
stick-
the oracle.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my time traveling theory.
It's more fun.
It's more fun.
Yes, it's all in your mind. And another point that he makes is it has a kind of a self-realization thing, electronic age, because so much of reflections. I can see myself in others. I can relate to the others because I know what you think. That's why he doesn't like print age, only for one aspect, though he is a little biased in this, I would say. But what he dislikes about the printing age is that you get a book and you
Read it alone.
read it alone. Okay, so the community thing is not there. That's why he says that the printing age makes people atomized or makes people individuals or fragmented. Now this was the main argument of his early work. I guess that was enough for this period of time, and we will be back again with Marshall McLuhan.